later. Okay, well, welcome everyone. And as I was saying, well, my name is Phoebe Morad. I'm Director of Lutherans Restoring Creation, and happy to have you all here. And anyone that is listening to this in the future, I'm glad that you have found this resource, because we have an incredible resource and people to share with you tonight. Right off the bat, though, I'm just going to open up the chat for everyone to be able to write in where you are calling in from, zooming in from, what church congregation, your home congregation, the land, the original earth keepers of the land on which you stand, if you could share, if you happen to know. And as I'm mentioning that, I also just want to highlight, in the past, I have sent some information about where to find out a little bit more about the ancestry of the land that you're on and the current communities that you live beside, most likely, and with, and might be a part of. There is a great resource. It's a beautiful map. It's just, if you want to look at it for aesthetic reasons only, there's a beautiful map here that I just put in the chat that shows all kinds of different territories and lands. And this is a crowdsourced piece of information, which means that you need to look up some stuff. So what I just want to encourage you to do, and as my congregation has been working on knowing a little bit more about the communities that live before us and live with us now, we've been realizing that it's not a one-stop process. You need to continually dig a little deeper into the history of the land that you're on and what happened with the land and the people. And as I looked at this resource, it just had it says contact local nations to verify. And once you start digging a little more, it's clear that some of this information was just kind of added haphazardly. So start a relationship, start finding out who your neighbors are by going out and talking to them. That's all I'm going to say about that. But I think it's a beautiful resource, but use it more than once and keep digging, because it's a really great pathway to find out about communities that otherwise you might not know more about. So speaking of communities you might not know about, I want to share with you tonight, if you are not familiar with Eco America's Blessed Tomorrow program, I want to welcome Sydney and Carol here from that program and tell you kind of my vantage point. They can tell you their mission statement, which I'm sure they will do, because I'm sure they memorized it. But what I found so impressive about Eco America's Blessed Tomorrow is that here is an organization with tremendous assets and knowledge specifically of sociological and behavioral studies, and an understanding of how best to communicate difficult subjects. And they go out to people of faith asking, how can we help people in your particular community, speaking your particular theological language, make sure that you know how to talk about climate? Because people have done the research. A lot of people are concerned about climate, whatever end of the spectrum they might be on. They are concerned about the globe and what is happening on the globe. And they just don't think that their fellow neighbors want to talk about it. So they don't. So it's like death and a lot of other stuff church needs to talk about, right? But we need to learn how to do that. So I want to hand over the baton to Carol Devine, who I really appreciate being here with us this evening. And thank you so much. I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks so much, Phoebe, and thanks to all of you for being here. And it's a real honor and blessing to spend a little time with you all. So first, I just want to say that Blessed Tomorrow is the faith arm of an organization called Eco America. And Eco America has 3 programs. We have a communities program that works with local communities and community organizations. We have a Climate for Health program that works with nurses, doctors, public health folks, and anyone who works in the health sector, and as well as psychiatrists, psychologists, and mental health folks. And we have the faith arm or sector, which is Blessed Tomorrow. So Eco America is around in order to build institutional leadership, public support, and political resolve for climate solutions in the United States. So we are, as Phoebe already said, we really want to help people who care about the earth, and that would be what supports our lives, right? For anybody who cares about life to have the tools that they need to be able to talk about, teach, advocate, etc., and for solutions for the climate. Okay, so and also I just want to say, I am an ordained minister in the Christian Church Disciples of Christ. I have served as a pastor for 14 years, and I worked at Lexington Theological Seminary for a couple of years before coming to Bless Tomorrow. But all throughout my ministry and all throughout my life, my passion has always been creation care, climate advocacy and for solutions, and that kind of thing. So I'm really blessed and honored to have the job that I have, and to be able to work in this sector full time, and to work with incredible people like Phoebe and like Sydney that you'll be hearing from in just a second. As we get started, what we would like to do is do a breakout, but let's not go to the breakout just this second. First, let me talk about it just a little bit before Phoebe does her magic and makes us all move around. When we think about why we do this work, why you all showed up, why you want to know more, why you want to be more involved, a good portion of it comes out of the fact that we feel so connected to God when we're in the natural world, right? We have so many beautiful memories. And Phoebe was just talking about, folks taking vacations and coming back from vacation, and just, what a blessing it is to be in the mountains or at the sea or in the meadows or the desert or our own backyards. Sydney knows that outside my window, I have a bunch of different bird feeders, so that as I sit at my computer each day, pretty much all day, I can feel still very connected to outside, to the hummingbirds that come and all the various birds that come to my feeders. And that brings me so much joy and helps me to stay grounded and connected. So we're going to go into breakout rooms, and we're going to share one joy that we have that connects us with God's good earth. And then we also will share if there's anything heavy that we're carrying on our hearts, like, of course, our siblings in Pakistan right now who are dealing with such great flooding, unbelievable flooding. And I'm in Kentucky, where that we just are still recovering from horrible flooding that we had. So we all carry some grief, some worry, some struggle. And it's very helpful for us to name that and share that with each other. But also, I want us to also just celebrate the joys that we have from being outside. So Phoebe's going to send us into our rooms, and we can talk about joys and concerns, if you will, as it relates to the out of doors. So any grief we carry, any joy we carry, we're going to share those with each other.
I'm going to call Heather.
And I just want to admit to all of you, because you know me better. Sydney's the one doing this. She is the amazing.
Oh, Sydney's
you all know better because you've been on a couple of calls with me. I couldn't coordinate this. Good job. Thank you.
Okay, sorry there.
Hi, Gabrielle. She might usher you over someplace now, but it's good to see you.
She's making breakout rooms. Is that what's happening?
Yes. Oh,
Joy and a concern.
All right. I found mine. There we go. All
Okay.
right.
And you'll even send them little reminders?
Yes.
Thank you. And I wrote to Krell. He probably won't see it now, but if he could, I was gonna read what he wrote, but it's so much better if he can read it himself.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I do like what he wrote a lot. I mean, I saw how long it was. I'm like, I'll just read it. And then I was like, no, it's all really good. So
How long do you want them there for? Like, what do we say, 5 minutes or 3 minutes?
You want to at least have a minute a person at least.
Okay. They're in groups of
Maybe after 3 minutes, give them a
1 minute. Okay.
2-minute warning. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe a 2-minute warning.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Would anybody like to share? We don't have time to go over everybody, but did anybody's group have anything in particular that just really stands out that you would like to share to the whole group?
I'll be brave for a minute.
Okay, thank you.
In our group, there were various things that bring us close to creation and that, but I hear a pervasive feeling that we sense apathy on the part of many people. We sense people rejecting talking about it. We sense that there has been certainly adverse publicity that we've seen about this. And if it's not in my backyard, there seems to be an atmosphere sometimes that, well, I'm sorry for what happens to other people, but it's not here.
Yeah.
And it is here. And we
Yeah.
need to wake them up.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And thanks for all of you for your hearts and faith and for showing up, So I want to just set just a little bit about why it is. You've already opened that up, Sharon, but why it is that this is something that we as people of faith need to be involved in. It is my belief that people of faith are the perfect people to lead on climate. And the reason is, number one, if we go to our holy book, if we look at holy scriptures, from Genesis all the way through Revelation, are references to how we're connected to God through creation, to the fact that God began and created all that is, and therefore God's spirit is imbued in all of creation, that we are called to keep, to take care of, to steward the earth. And so it's in our holy scriptures over and over and over again that this is what we're called to do as God's people. As a pastor, I know that for people of all ages, if they, for one reason or another, are not involved in a church or a community of faith, that they can experience God's beauty and grace and majesty anytime that they're outside. And so it's really important that we have beautiful, wild spaces in order for people to continue to be able to come back to God that is in them, God that is around us. So we do this because it's part of our faith through scripture. We do this because it is how people can be connected with the holy. We do this because of justice, because of what Sharon already said and what I said a few moments ago, that we are holding the people of Pakistan in our hearts and prayers in the same way that we're holding the people in Texas and Louisiana and Mississippi and my own state of Kentucky from flooding, and the folks out west from fires and drought, that this is a justice justice issue, and we know that the folks who are impacted first and hardest are those who are what we might call the least of these among us, those who are often excluded or living already in poverty, or for one reason or another vulnerable. So as people who are called to love the least of these and to find Christ in those people, for a people of faith that are called to care primarily for those who are excluded by other people, then we have to care about and be active in climate solutions. So I just wanted to give us a little bit of grounding as to why this is important, why it is that I do this, and then we offer at Blessed Tomorrow ways for you to be empowered and to have the knowledge and training that you need to be able to speak on this and teach and preach. And we want to encourage and empower you to take advantage of that. So I'm going to turn it over to Sydney now, who is the one who coordinates our Creation Care Ambassador program.
Thank you, Carol. Hi, everyone. My name is Sydney Otis, and I'm the Network Engagement Manager with Blessed Tomorrow. So I just want to share, like Carol said, the Blessed Tomorrow, or the Creation Care Ambassador program, is a training that equips you on communication tools to talk about climate, but also gives you some baseline information so that you feel climate literate and more confident going into those conversations. And then when you take that training, you have the opportunity to become a Creation Care Ambassador. And that is where we then offer you a lot of support and resources and community to help you continue to do this work. So one of the things I want to do first is, if you haven't had a chance to take the training yet, we've done it live with ELCA, but we also have an on-demand version. So I want to just share my screen really quickly. Let's see. So this is on the Lutherans Restoring Creation website, but you'll see down here at the bottom, there's a link and a code, and this is the course code. So you can take the training that is custom for Lutherans. And so that link will get you to a page like this, where you sign up with your name and last name and email, and then you'll put that course code, the ELCA code, there at the bottom. And then this will send you an email so you can get set up in the learning platform, and we'll share all these links with you. So then where that takes you is to this on-demand course, and the sections of it are giving an overview of the program itself, giving more grounding, like Carol did, about the moral case for climate action and why people of faith are positioned to lead on this issue. And then throughout, there will be quizzes and reflection exercises, so you have some time to, remember back what you've learned, think about it. And then we'll talk about impacts, so the ways that climate is already intertwined in all the ministries that you care about, people, justice, all different types of impacts. And then Chapter 3 is all about solutions. So you get through some of the heavy stuff and then are brought into solutions. And this covers the big picture and also what people of faith can do. So it talks about it on a wide scale and then shows you how you can be part of the solution. And Chapter 4 is all about communicating on climate. So these are those best practices and guidance. And then there's even an exercise where you can use some of that guidance and draft out what your message could be. And this offers you a way to bring people into the conversation and connect on shared values. And we talk about bearing witness and policy and advocacy and engagement, and how one of the ways that you can engage others and be a climate advocate is through giving talks. And so this is what the Creation Care Ambassador program tries to support you in doing, along with other advocacy opportunities. And then the last chapter here just explains the support that we offer to you if you become a Creation Care Ambassador after you take this training. So one of the resources, let me bring over. So when you do become an ambassador, you're added to this platform called Mobilize. And this is private, invitation only. Only people who fill out that ambassador agreement are added here. So these are people who share your same concern and values and are also wanting to take commitment and action on this issue. And when you get here, there's a few different things. So there's events, which is one of the ways that we continue to support you. We host different types of office hours where you can come and ask questions. We meet quarterly as a Creation Care Ambassador community to share what we're doing, what's working, updates from the program, things like that. So we host events to come together in community. We also share resources. So one of the main resources is a template ambassador presentation. So this takes that big training that you completed and kind of boils it down to more like a 40-minute presentation with talking points and slides. And you don't have to use slides when you're giving presentations. Not every talk is formal, standing up at a podium or something. It could be at a Bible study or a book club or potluck, anything like that. But this at least gives you some talking points and slides if you want to use them, and some guidance to help you create those conversations based on that communication guidance. We also have a lot of other resources beyond that template PowerPoint. There's climate action sheets that talk about, they're easy handouts that you can leave around your congregation with things you need to know and things you need to do on different topics related to climate change. We have 5 steps to effective communication that you can share with others. We have replication guides of climate projects that other groups have done that have been successful that you might be able to replicate in your area. So there's a lot of resources in Mobilize, and it's also a way to stay connected to others and to the program to get continued support. So those are just a few of the ways you support you. We have newsletters, and we do our best to offer you ongoing staff support. So you have access to Carol and I, and we do our best to provide you whatever support you need in taking action and bringing this issue further in your area. So I think let me stop sharing. So one other thing that we sometimes do, there's other benefits to becoming an ambassador. At Eco America, we do a lot of events. So we have a leadership summit, we have faith-specific events, and as ambassadors, you'll get early access to those or free admission if there's a cost. And sometimes there's other different incentives we do for different areas of the country and things like that. So as those updates come out, we communicate them with the ambassadors as well. And I think, Phoebe, do you want to?
Well, I wanted to jump in just, if you don't mind. I can't stress highly enough how fabulous Sydney is and what an incredible support she is to the ambassadors, those who are doing the course, and then those who have finished. She sends a weekly email that just gives you like some highlights of like articles that you might want to read. You don't have to read any of them, but if there's some topic that, you know, maybe electric cars or something that we have discussed among staff at Eco America, Sydney grabs those articles that we share and sends them out to you so that you can stay on top of the latest news. When I first started in doing this work, and I'm sure the same for you, Phoebe, and many of you on this call as well, you used to struggle to find a single article or news about having anything to do with climate or creation care. But now there is literally many a day. And so we at Eco America once a week try to bring up the ones that we think are the most important for that week. And Sydney then takes the highlights from those and shares them weekly. Also, she recently this summer led a book group. We bunch of us ambassadors and staff people, we all read the same book, and then we came together and discussed it. And it was just so awesome and so much fun. So there is, it was All We Can Save. was the book, and we highly recommend it. It was just so good. But I just want to really highlight the fact that those who take the ambassador training and then sign the agreement saying, I want to be an advocate for climate, there just is this community that continues, and you can be as involved. You don't have to be as involved as some, but it's there for you. Yeah. So I wanted to give that big shout out, because she's just really awesome.
She really is. I can't get over the amount of stuff that you can curate. I mean, because there is a lot, and it's not all good news, but you offer a lot of opportunities for people to dive in. And it's something where you can find Sydney's email, know that you want to put some information out to your congregation, and you'll find something in there, and you know you can trust it. Because look at Sydney, you can trust Sydney.
And she also sends out a monthly newsletter that talking about sharing with your congregation. You can cut and paste from her newsletter and put it into your church newsletter. And that, I know that as when I was pastoring a church for 14 years, I was always, looking for more stuff to share in newsletters, right? So it's a real service. So yeah.
So those are our testimonies. And I wonder, I know that Krell wasn't expecting to be here, but I would love to hear from a couple of people that have experienced the training. We'll hear from Krell. And I just also heard from Gabrielle that she would be willing to speak after Krell to her experience long ago when we did this live. But we want to know from Krell, when you took this online seminar, I mean, this is way back when we started this understanding of this online community, was pre-COVID, and we thought, well, will people really be online together in community? And look at that. Now it's happening. So over to you, Krell.
Yeah.
How have you found this?
Well, yeah, thanks. I didn't expect to be here, but as COVID would have it, I was going to be at a CCL potluck tonight, and I got COVID over the weekend, and that kind of knocked me out
I
of.
didn't mean to put you on the spot. Then I can read what you wrote if you're not even up for that.
No.
Okay.
I'm feeling much better now. But when you wonder how is climate change going to affect me this week, well, here you go. Yeah, I think what I shared in my small group session just now was that I'm just feeling more deeply in my bones every week the urgency of needing to just marshal all the different resources and communities that we can to work together on this, and to get some movement going. And that's what really drew me to the work that Sydney and Eco America and Carol is doing, because I think they're doing a really fabulous job of pulling together a variety of resources and helping to equip us and making us more fluent in the language. So that's what really drew me in. Well, Phoebe, also that you had put the invitation out on LRC, so that I could easily just jump on that invitation and do it. So, and I'm trying to remember, that invitation was really well done, but I think it said it was going to take me like 3 hours to do it or something like that. And it ended up taking me 11 hours. So I don't know if I'm just a slow learner or what, but I mean, I really appreciated all the information, but it took me a while to get through it, and I'm glad I did. So that's, in a nutshell, that's really, my experience with the training was very positive. I thought it was good, relevant information and up to date. And yeah, and I think very practical too, in terms of really trying to focus on strategies that connect people with what matters to them. You know, of how climate change and the climate crisis really is going to be bringing about a change directly in their lives and for the lives of their children, and using that as kind of that first encounter to really relate with people and communicate the urgency. So yeah, I thought that was all just really well done. And I really love getting those timely emails from Sydney that just kind of categorizes all the different articles that are out there, so that it really does become much easier to have the most current news and data, to bring to the conversation. So that's all good.
Krell, I have to say, I could not use words as well as you can with COVID. I couldn't speak a full sentence. So I'm very appreciative of you being able to share like that. And you also shared with us beforehand, that one piece that you shared with us beforehand in written word, because you didn't think you'd be here. I'm going to read this out loud because I think it has to do with everything that we're doing out in the world right now. Your last thought was, regrettably though, what I'm discovering, the more I get into this cooperative endeavor of ours, is having to make a ready spiritual discipline of apologizing as scheduling conflicts invariably arise, and learning to depend on the graciousness of the many to accept those frequent apologies and sustain the weary, that's me, with a word. So thank you for understanding and encouragement. So I just want to lift that up, because I think the beauty of this program is that it's online and you can take it whatever. And then half of us say, but we want to see each other, but I want to be with humans. But a lot of us can't fit that right now. So we're just juggling a lot of different ways to access each other right now. And I really like how you put that, Krell, but just to understand too, those of you on the call that might be really ready to take this and run with it, just understand that the path might not be in front of you. It might be over and above and under rocks. And so be ready for that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Krell.
Well, thank you. And just a final note, just to tell you, I did have a mild case of the COVID. I had all my vaccinations, all my boosters. So
Good.
looks like I flew through it pretty well. So
Good. Take it easy though, because I thought I was better and then it took another 10 days. So be careful with yourself.
thanks.
And Gabrielle, are you able to speak as well to your experience way back in 2020 when we thought this would just be a little time isolated?
Yes, I am happy to. So I did take the live class, which was wonderful. And at the time, I can't remember if I was still in Colorado, but after I took the class, which I would recommend for anybody, even if they're not thinking about being an ambassador, I put off becoming an ambassador because I knew that my journey was going to put me in a place where I was not going to be able to fulfill what I felt that I should be doing as an ambassador. So I held off, and I have been exploring since then all kinds of different communities and involvements around these important issues. And I've had the good fortune to be in 3 completely different environments physically, and been able to observe and understand a little bit about contexts and their uniqueness in these conversations, which when we're having national conversations has been a huge growing thing for me. So that's been remarkable. And now I am fortunate to be in an environment. Actually, I'm pretty sure that the congregation, in fact, I'm certain that the congregation that I'm serving in right now is already green certified. I've only just been here a short while. However, some of the movers and shakers of our green team have moved on. We're in an environment with a lot of young adults in graduate and undergraduate school, and they come and go. And so we're working to build a team that will be sustainable over time. And I'm excited to get doing that. When I took the online class, it was, that was before we were completely burnt out on Zoom. So it was almost novel. And I think, Phoebe, you used some other, I remember being in a meeting, in online meetings on something that wasn't Zoom, like some platform from.
We tried it all. I think.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. But at that time, I don't recall there being an option to do the course independently. I think that's a fantastic change because it's already been mentioned, the reasons why that is a good thing. I don't have much else
That's
to
great.
say.
No, I love that story about coming around and making it when it's right for your time and space.
Well, sure. Yeah. And the thing is that even in just, 2.5 years, the urgency for me, at least, has expanded and grown a lot. I look around and even the things that we're looking at as solutions, now we're looking at the metallic rocks deep in the ocean that took millions of years to form. And if we scoop them up, then yeah. So lots to ponder for sure.
Lots to ponder. Yes. Well, Phoebe, is it okay if Sydney and I answer a couple of the questions that came in ahead of time real quick? I know we want to have time at the end as well. One of the questions that was submitted ahead of time was like, what are the most important things that we can do on climate? And first, I'll say that's really not an easy question because anything that we do is really helpful and it's going to take all of it. At Eco America, we say everyone every day. And that is the challenge, is at least do one thing a day that is helps towards climate solutions. And one of the easy ones that we can do, and as people of faith, I hope that we're doing every day, is talking about it. Phoebe talked about this at the very beginning of this meeting, but we know that 75% of Americans are concerned, and the majority very concerned about climate. But these same people believe that only a small fraction of the population is also concerned. And so then we get in these gatherings, at church or wherever, and we think other people aren't concerned about this, so we don't talk about it. So something that we can really help the movement move forward is talking about it every day. And that doesn't have to be formal. That can be having a conversation, with a friend over coffee. That can be, if you're on social media, making a post and saying, I'm very concerned about, the flooding in Pakistan and the connection it has to climate change, or sharing an article, or, but it also can include, leading a book study at church or in your neighborhood or community. It can be a formal presentation, for Sunday school class. This past Sunday, I did the youth Sunday school class and talked about this at my church. So it can be something very formal. It can be something where you're just sitting around talking about it, but just talk about it every day really is important, so that we can grow the awareness of all of the connections to climate. So I would say that's the most important thing. The other thing is, of course, which we all know is energy. So transportation, as we're able to move towards electric or hybrid cars, as we're able to reduce our energy use in our homes and church buildings with, programmable thermostats and LED light bulbs and all the conservation kinds of things, as well as moving toward renewable energy. That's huge. But also the thing that we do 3 or more times a day is eat. So paying attention and eating eating more fruits and vegetables and grains, and less meat is part of the solution. And then the other thing that that excites me, to be honest, is being part of the healing of the earth by planting native species. There's a whole fantastic movement of taking our lawns to our grass spaces at our churches and in our homes and turning at least 50% of it back to nature. And I don't mean like just letting it go wild, but planting native species plants. So I'm doing this personally in my own backyard. This year I have planted so many. I can't even count them now, but I'm just slowly turning what used to be grass into plants and trying to make it very beautiful. I'm not as good at it as some people, but there's so much that happens when the diversity is reinstated and the birds come back and the butterflies come and all of the insects, and the diversity that reflects the diversity of God is then in our yards and in our churches. And then the last thing that I would just lift up, but I am not going to get into today, but you can find lots of articles, including articles that Sydney shares out, and that is on money. And so for those of us who are blessed to have any kind of investments or a credit card, what banks we use, what bank cards we use, the ones that are not associated with supporting and funding fossil fuels would be another way that we can leverage solutions and be part of the change that we hope to see in the world. And so then Sydney's going to talk about another question.
Thanks, Carol. So a question was sent in about the recent Supreme Court ruling on the EPA versus West Virginia, and just spending some time unpacking that a little. And I want to do that in some plain terms. I'm not a policy wonk, but I have done some reading on this over the past few months, I guess now that's back in July. And then I also want to put it in context a little bit of the recent Inflation Reduction Act too, because I think it's hard to talk about one without the other. So the Supreme Court ruling affected the Clean Air Act, but really what they decided was one aspect of the Clean Power Plan that was an Obama administration effort was beyond the reach of the EPA. So Congress needed to make that as legislation, and isn't something that the EPA could administer on their own. It had to be something that went through Congress. And so what that was that power plants would be required to shift to cleaner forms of energy. So there's still plenty of regulation that the EPA can do. Really, it just made one way that they were working to cut down carbon emissions not allowed under their authority alone, but something that needs to go through Congress first. So the good news is that if that is something that wants to, is going to become part of the plan, it has to go through Congress. But there's a lot of other ways to regulate carbon emission from new and existing power plants. And the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, worked on this. So they didn't go as far as to actually put that piece of legislation through because of the way that they passed it. That just wasn't in the cards. But they qualified, I believe it was 7 or 9 other gases as greenhouse gases, so that it expanded what the EPA was able to regulate. So really the decision from the Supreme Court could be detrimental to the way that the EPA regulates emissions, but Congress still has the power to regulate it the way that power plan wrote out, if they choose to do that. So it's when we talk about get out the vote efforts and things like that in midterms, it is important to have the context of all of these things to think about candidates and who is going to vote with climate interests, because there are all these weird ways of making it harder to reach our goals, but with climate smart candidates and people in Congress, then there's still plenty of pathways to reach the 50% goal by 2030. So hopefully that's helpful. And I can send a couple resources in the chat that helped me understand that as well.
That's huge. Thank you so much, Sydney, for unpacking that. And I know as things change, just as Carol was explaining, that Sydney is always giving updates. I just really appreciate that we can leverage the assets that this much larger organization can offer us. As Lutherans, we're doing our thing in our own way with our own language type of stuff, but we have access to these trusted partners. And this conversation between Eco America's Blessed Tomorrow started way back in 2019 or even 2018. And I did want to lift up the fact that our official ELCA has had a memorandum of understanding with Eco America for years, where they've been able to help us create, like, there was, it's just maybe a 2-minute video that explains how our Lutheran faith is connected and seen in what we do with creation. And that's something that is a tool on the ELCA, elca.org/environment, that you'll find that on. But they're constantly helping leverage our assets. And as the ELCA did just say that, and voted as a church-wide assembly just less than a month ago, that we pledge to not only advocate for 50% reduction in greenhouse gases, but also will be a beacon and ensure that our congregations and the individuals in them know how to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. We can leverage the assets of this much larger institution. So I just really appreciate that. It's kind of, yeah, it's just a cooperative that feels also like a relationship, not just an institution putting out some good websites. So I really encourage you to use what they have to offer. And people are asking, how do I find out? And I'm like, really, just email Sydney. So, you know, you're going to get a lot of emails, Sydney. And I know, overall too, oops, she put her email there. She must be ready for it. Okay. As I wanted to see too, I don't think I saw any other incoming questions in the chat. And I think we covered a lot of them. I think there are definitely some of these points that we could go on about for a long time, but what I would like to encourage is for us as an ELCA, as Lutheran community, I would like to ask you all to come back to me, not right now, but to come back to me and Lutherans Restoring Creation as a network to figure out how can we best really leverage our ambassador program. If you go, I'll send you all a link in the chat to our maps that show you where we have existing ambassadors. There are a lot of you trained ambassadors out there that don't have to live nearby anyone to come to someone's church. If we're still living in somewhat of a hybrid communicative way, I wonder how many churches would be excited to have an expert. Not even an expert, you're just another voice. You're not that same person that everyone's heard from for years that told them to put their can in the recycling. Like, you're an expert as far as they're concerned, right? So if you can offer yourselves out as ambassadors, either because you've taken the program or you will take this online program, know that there are lots of different creative ways that you can be an asset. And honestly, like in my church, it took years to really find traction. Sometimes you're more welcome in another church. So I didn't know if anybody's had that experience of reaching out to other places and presenting in other places as the expert, if anybody wants to speak to that, or if you've invited experts into your space to share a presentation. I don't know if anybody on the call has experienced that. Yeah, Brother Ken.
So we've connected with the Interfaith Partners of the Chesapeake.
Yeah.
And so we've had a representative from them come to our church and gave a presentation. And as a congregation, we actually signed a pledge that we and our congregation on our property, but also as a whole congregation, our own personal homes, that we would be making a move towards more sort of green filtering solutions for runoff water. And so, so we're in the midst of doing that. Actually, we're in a 6-week program now where we're using a creation care or a water conservation care VBS for our Sunday school for these next 6 weeks. And so, so we've got a whole team that's really excited about it, and I get to just kind of walk with them. So they're so motivated that they're doing all the work. So it's just really, really great. So anybody who lives in the Chesapeake region, the Interfaith Partners of the Chesapeake is a great organization to connect with. Thank you.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And just piggybacking off that, I want to say, I don't know if a study has been done or not, but in my experience, churches that are most involved at caring for creation in whatever way, whether it be the water or Chesapeake Bay, or whether it be solar, or whether it be whatever it is, gardens, etc. There's just this energy and passion that comes from caring for God's good earth. And those churches have that energy and vitality. And so it not only is what we're called to do as people of God and followers of Christ, but it is also a great technique for bringing in new people, because they come into your church and they can feel the energy. And so, and it just feels good for those who are there. So thank you for sharing that, Ken. That was beautiful.
And I would like to leave a moment for closing prayer, but if there is any other burning desire question on the table, are we good? Awesome. I really appreciate, and as we said, we have Sydney's email, so she can answer any and all questions. I recognize, though, that Sydney and Carol just offered us a tremendous amount of resources. Sometimes it's overwhelming. And not only am I here asking Wilbur to help pray us out, but also I wanted to highlight the fact that Wilbur is a creation care certified coach. So many of you might have heard of the ELCA's coaching program that we've had for, I think, over a decade now. And I think their byline is, help me out, Wilbur, empowering leaders through power ministries. Oh, you're muted, Wilbur.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Okay. But essentially, they're not a coach that's going to slap you on the back and get out their team. Coaches really help people figure out their pathway, and they're incredible listeners. But a creation care coach also knows a bunch of resources and where to find them. So it's not necessarily just having the resources, especially if you find yourself in a place or in a congregation, in a setting where you need to make a path for yourself and ensure that you follow it. I encourage you to look at our map and find a coach, whether they be near you or far away. Wilbur happens to be one of them, but you're in South Dakota, North Dakota?
South Dakota.
South Dakota.
I'm on the map
Online.
for
You're
Care
on
for Creation.
Yep. And many people are doing coaching online, or sometimes even just on the phone. Right? Still on the phone even.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
If
So-
I may interject, Larry Ryan is also a creation care coach, and I myself am a creation care coach too.
I
So
hope we have you all on the map.
there's a few of us around. So
And I just want to lift that up, because I so appreciate that you can have so many resources, but if you don't have a plan for yourself and accountable to someone, you might not see it through, and they're here for you. And again, another asset we have that I hope that we get to utilize. So thank you so much, Pastor Wilbur, for closing us in prayer this evening. And thank you so much to Carol and Sydney for your work. Before we pray out, I just want a round of applause or a little wavy wavies. Thank you so much.
Let us pray. Gracious God, it can be overwhelming as we think about creation and how to best care for it. Help us to not be overwhelmed. Thank you for colleagues who care. Thank you for those who are doing whatever work they can in whatever way they can. Thanks for a time to share good resources, to learn about possibilities, to spend some time encouraging each other. Be with us as we go forth. Help us to find ways to care for creation and to enlist others in that so important cause of caring for your marvelous creation. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful month. And I didn't really want to expose him too much because I didn't know if he was ready to speak, but next month we'll hear from Paul Sandmeyer, who happens to be right there. So please come back, make sure you register and ask questions online beforehand, because he already has a lot of questions he has to answer and ask. Right, Paul? Thank you.
Thank you all. It's been
you,
wonderful to be with you.
Carol and Phoebe. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you so much, Sydney, for doing everything.